Mehdi Hasan will say tonight that October 7th does not justify Israel's actions in this horrible war. My question then is this.
Eylon, I'm sorry, your time is up.
What does October 7th?
I'm sorry, your time is up. Thank you. Mehdi? Eylon, in already calling your opponent a liar, you have already crossed one of the lines of the culture that we try to establish here. I wish you hadn't.
I don't mind. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I can do that.
You don't need to do that to make your case. Please. Mehdi Hasan, you are answering no in answer to the question. Were Israel's actions in the Gaza war justified?
All right, so, ladies and gentlemen, the question, were they justified? Were the actions justified?
And it would be great if you didn't feel the need to respond to the personal attack, because it'll waste
We'll
time.
decide when we get there, John. Were they justified? No, obviously not. Of course not. October the 7th, I think we can all agree, was a crime, a war crime, right? We can all agree on that. And taking hostages is a war crime.
Alright everybody, welcome back to Zees Political Arrow. Mehdi Hasan, armed with truth and unflinching moral clarity, stands against Elon Levy, whose rhetoric already crumbles under the weight of the personal attacks and deflection. At stake, the question of whether Israel's actions in Gaza can ever be justified. This isn't just a debate, it's a reckoning. Let's begin.
And those hostages should be released. But to destroy an entire place, an entire people in response is never justified. Never justified. How are we still I don't understand how we're debating this more than 40,000 deaths later. I don't understand how we're still debating this sitting in the comfort of New York, 7,000 miles away from a place that the UN Secretary General has called hell on earth. Justified? Justified? Was Israel justified in carrying out one of the most intense civilian punishment campaigns in history, according to Dr. Robert Pape at the University of Chicago, dropping 500-pound bombs, 1,000-pound bombs, 2,000-pound bombs on schools, hospitals, universities, bookstores, libraries, mosques, churches, refugee camps, apartment buildings, cemeteries, destroying a higher percentage of buildings in northern Gaza than the Allies destroyed in Dresden during World War II, reducing Gaza to 42 million tons of rubble while they got people out of the way? How is that justified? Dropping a bomb, for example, on a 6-story apartment building in central Gaza last October, killing more than 100 people inside, including more than 50 children, with no Hamas target in sight, according to Human Rights Watch, with no explanation offered by the Israeli military. Even till today, was that justified, Eylon? Was Israel justified in telling people to go to safe zones and then bombing them and killing them in those safe zones? According to NBC, there were 7 deadly airstrikes between January and April in areas that the Israeli military had specifically designated as safe zones, killing Palestinian civilians like Sabrine Sakani, who was 30 weeks pregnant at the time. She was killed in a safe zone in April. Her little baby, newborn baby, died less than a week later. Was that justified too, Eylon? Was Israel justified in killing a record number of kids in Gaza, 16,000 children, turning Gaza into what the UN has called a graveyard for children, according to Save the Children, killing more kids in the first 3 weeks that were killed globally in each of the past 4 years, killing little kids like 6-year-old Hind Rajab and her 15-year-old sister Leanne, firing 335 bullets into the car they were in. 335 bullets. And then killing the 2 paramedics who went to try and rescue them. Was that justified too, Eylon? Was Israel justified in killing a record number of aid workers in Gaza? Right? A record number. Targeting again and again, systematically, car by car, according to Chef Jose Andres. A specifically, explicitly marked World Central Kitchen aid convoy killing 7 aid workers in the process. Was that justified? Was Israel justified in starving the people of Gaza, using food and water as a weapon of war, to quote both the EU and Oxfam? Was Israel justified in blocking aid trucks from going into Gaza simply because they carry things like crutches, nail clippers, and even chocolate croissants, according to the Washington Post? Was Israel justified in raping, sodomizing Palestinian detainees who were charged with no crimes whatsoever? Putting hot rods up their rectums, amputating their limbs, according to CNN and the New York Times. Was that rape and torture justified, Eylon? Israel, according to the ICC chief prosecutor, who put out a statement calling for the arrest of Eylon's former boss, Benjamin Netanyahu, said that Israel may have military goals, legitimate goals, but the way they're carried out, killing innocent people, starving people, is criminal, he said. Criminal, think about that. Elon Levy is a former spokesperson for a man who the ICC chief prosecutor once arrested for war crimes. Eylon himself has produced a number of lies, sorry, John, in service of those war crimes. He has a bunch of tweets still up tonight which say that babies were beheaded on October the 7th, babies were baked in ovens, babies were ripped from their mother's wombs. October 7th was bad enough, but Elon had to exaggerate it for atrocity purposes. Those tweets are still up. Why would you trust anything this man says to you tonight? Look, he's here. He's here. He's here to gaslight you, to defend the indefensible, to excuse the inexcusable, to justify the unjustifiable, but you don't need to. Tonight you can choose to be on the side not of cruelty, not of criminality, but on the side of the innocent people of Gaza who are being killed as we speak tonight, as we speak, by Eylon's former colleagues in the Israeli military on the orders of Eylon's former bosses in the Israeli government. So yes, I choose to oppose this horrific and homicidal motion. Thank you.
So we're going to have a discussion with that's a little bit looser in format. But the first thing I want to say to each of you is, this mutual urination contest is not helping us understand the principles involved. All right, you think he tells untruths, you think he tells untruths. You don't need to keep hitting that point, I hope, to make your argument. And again, it's not what we're about. Eylon, I heard you in your opening statement say that the only moral response was for Israel to try to take Hamas down and to get the hostages home. I heard your opponent say that the manner in which it's happening is just enormous overreach with enormous consequences for an enormous number of people that he would certainly say, and I think a number of others would agree, are innocent people, not all of them, but some of them, and that represents an unjustifiable response. What we're talking about, it seems like, is proportionality. And I want you to address the issue of proportionality. This has been calculated in a number of ways. People have said that, as you said, it was the worst terrorist attack since September 11th, 2001. But others would say that the number of people killed on both sides is wildly out of balance and therefore disproportionate. There's an issue to be discussed here. There's a principle to be discussed here, and that's proportionality. And what, in your view, justifies the proportionality that Israel has stepped up to in its response? And again, because I want things to move back and forth, I'll probably jump in on you after about 90 seconds, just so you have a sense.
Israel's response is proportionate to the threat that we face, which is the threat of annihilation. After perpetrating the savage atrocities of October 7th, the first thing Hamas did was deny that it did them. The second thing that it did was to threaten to do it again and again until Israel is destroyed. That is what is at stake. If this war ends with Hamas free, emboldened, and empowered to perpetrate more October 7th massacres, thinking that the world will keep saving it from the wars that it started. Now, proportionality is a term in international law. It doesn't mean that if they kill 1,000 people, you kill 1,000 people and call it quits. It means that for each strike, the anticipated collateral damage, the damage to civilians, cannot be excessive to the anticipated military goal.
And your argument is that has been the principle Israel has observed?
Every military expert who has observed Israel's military efforts, including just recently in the Times, the Deputy Supreme Commander of NATO, has said that Israel is fighting in the most complicated urban battlefield that the world has ever seen, and he's satisfied that its rules of engagement and standard procedures are at least as rigorous as the UK and other Western allies. That's the former Deputy Supreme Commander of NATO.
Mehdi.
So I actually want to agree. I want to agree with something Eylon said. Proportionality is a difficult subject, and we shouldn't talk about this in abstract. X number here, Y number there. Mm-hmm. Let's talk specifics. The problem with a lot of spokespersons of Israel, they want to talk in abstract. I want to talk in specifics. So if we talk about proportionality, we talk about discrimination, we talk about war crimes. Last October, shortly after October 7th, Israeli forces struck a 3-story residential building in Gaza City. They killed 15 members of the Al-Dos family, 7 children. According to Amnesty International, the survivors say no warnings. Eylon told us there were warnings. No warnings were given to evacuate. Amnesty found no evidence of any military targets in the area, and Israel to this day has offered no explanation for that strike. So for the dead Al-Dos family members, Eylon, can you tell us why they were killed?
Mr. Hassan, the IDF does not owe you immediate answers, and the fact that Amnesty speaks to local witnesses intimidated by Hamas does not mean that there was not a military target.
But was there? Because Israel has never said there was a military target.
Hamas booby-trapped 40% of Gaza's buildings. It dug tunnels underneath homes and schools.
We're back to generalities, Eylon.
No, not
Why did
generalities.
you kill 15 members of the Al-Dos family?
I do not know, and I do not need to explain every single strike.
You do. That's what you're here today.
Mehdi,
no, Mr. Hassan. Because in this war, Israel is seeking to neutralize the threat of a terrorist army that has a deliberate strategy.
I'm going to have to get the mic cut switch,
innocent
please.
Civilians.
Thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
Hamas has a deliberate strategy of sacrificing its innocent civilians, and this is a strategy that you are enabling by always deflecting blame onto Israel instead of considering the real question of why Hamas built its military assets into civilian areas. Under international law, Israel is obligated to give precaution where those feasible precautions are possible.
Yeah, but you still didn't answer the question, Eylon. Look, the bottom line is this. When you start seeing innocent people, especially kids, being treated as collateral damage in the name of proportionality, you've got to ask yourself, is this really justice, or just a war machine running unchecked? Mehdi Hasan is calling it out, and honestly, it's hard to ignore the evidence. There's only so much deflection and military necessities you can hide behind. Accountability is key here. And when you look at what's happening in Gaza, civilians targeted, aid workers killed, families wiped out, it's time to ask some serious questions. Is this the kind of questions we're willing to accept? It's evident that Mehdi Hasan's unwavering commitment to human rights, incisive questioning, have shed light on the complexity of this Israeli-Palestinian conflict. His call for accountability and adherence to international law serves as a crucial reminder of the importance of protecting civilians' lives in any military operation around the world. If you think we've only scratched the surface here, drop a comment below and let's keep this conversation going. And if you appreciate hearing both sides of the story without the mainstream media filter, don't forget to like, share, and hit that subscribe button for more. See you in the next one.